Pasco County, Broward, Lee County. Oh, fantastic. I'm so happy everybody made it to our final session. It is 2:50 and we're going to get started on time so you can enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm so excited about this session. Chi and I met in New York at an event, and it is why she is here today, and I learned so much from her, and I was so excited about sharing what I learned and how we can share that with both our teachers and our students to really focus on our well-being and our self-care. So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our final session. I hope that everyone is enjoying all of their sessions so far. Again, I'm Jennifer Diaz, the Director of Education for the Everglades Foundation. How are you feeling? How is everyone feeling? It is the end of our day. So we are excited about this session. We're going to treat ourselves at this session. Miss Kim's work is dedicated to the health and wellness of educators and learners. She has been a school superintendent, principal, teacher, leadership coach, and a program officer at the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation. She's an active in many initiatives and organizations that work to promote meaningful, purposeful teaching and learning balanced with well-being. So today you're going to take away some strategies that support your social and emotional self-care and academic development for your learners, as well as how to access this supportive curriculum. So thank you, Chi Kim, for joining us today. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I just want to share really quickly, when I was a principal, I actually was a principal of a marine science school for 9 years. And so all of the things that you do just for conservation is so heartwarming. I'm so grateful for all the educators here as well. So I'm going to get started and just give you a little bit of, I think if it is working. Okay, here we go. There. We're just going to go very quickly a little bit of the neuroscience of stress and just really talk about the reciprocity of self-care and what that means for all of us. And all of you educators who are always doing things for others, we hope that today you'll take a little time for yourself. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. I'm actually an immigrant from South Korea. I moved here when I was 3 years old. I've sort of had this meandering path, but I've always been focused on education. So in college, I actually worked in the infant development program. So when I was 20 years old, so I've been working with infants all the way through to college students. And it's been just a joy and a gift. One thing that I think that has been sort of really sort of sparked my interest in education is really how teachers can sort of light, just enthusiasm and just create all sorts of opportunities for curiosity. And so I just wanted to share a little bit of background, and also that the opportunities that educators like you give to children across the state of Florida, and opening up their eyes to not only just the environment, but really just the potential of each child. I'm a non-English speaker coming to the United States as an immigrant, and I feel really grateful for all the things I'm able to, and just the privilege of being a mom and an educator and being here with you today. So I wanted to share that with you. And that's my mom, so she's pretty awesome. So just wanted to share the powerhouse that I come from with my mother leading us from Korea as well. So the first thing I want to do is actually just get a sense to let you know we're a private operating foundation. All the resources and the supports that I'm sharing today are all open source for you. They're free. They're absolutely available. And so you don't have to pay for anything. You'll never have to pay for anything. It's all there for you all. And I'll show you that at the end. One of our main areas, we started out with being a student-facing organization and actually shifted when we met Dr. Mark Greenberg, who is one of the founders of CASEL, and I'll tell you why. But before we get started, just very quickly in the chat box, I would just like you to think of one thing that's on your mind or how you're feeling. Just one word to describe what's on your mind or how you're feeling. If you just enter that quickly into the chat box, that would be great. Yeah, anxious and stressed, tired, absolutely overwhelmed. Yep, worried, achy, very, yes. Empowered, overwhelmed, uncertain. Yeah, feeling inspired, that's great. And tired and anxious. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, anxiety, and worry. Yeah, understandably so, right? Getting different kinds of guidance and being thankful. Definitely sleepy, especially if you aren't sleeping at night, you're probably sleepy during the day. Good, and I'm glad there's some of you, emotions are all everywhere. Feeling excited, feeling optimistic, and also feeling nervous. and worried about next school year as well, which makes sense and totally understandable. So we're going to just start there for where you are. And we're going to go through, here we go. I'm going to just welcome you into the space. So wherever you're sitting right now, if you could go ahead and just sit up nice and tall. We're going to have a nice, tall, long, elongated spine, shoulders back, open heart. And we're just going to actually have you, you can keep your eyes open or closed, but if you do keep your eyes open, just a soft gaze on your keyboard. And what I'd like you to do is put one hand over your heart and one on your tummy. And just notice your breath. And just focus on your breath and the rise and fall of your chest as you're breathing. And as we gather, I'd love for you to just focus on nasal breathing, just to inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose. Nothing special, just focus on your breathing. And just notice the rise and fall of your chest. We're just going to take 30 seconds, just welcome you into the space. And 3 more breaths in through your nose and exhale through your nose. And last one. And I just want, as you're waiting, I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am that you do what you do. And we want you to do this for a long time. So we hope that we'll find some strategies that will be useful. So you can go ahead and welcome you back into the space. And 3 of the learning objectives that we'll cover today in our very short time together is just recognizing the physiological response to stress, understanding there's a reciprocal nature of stress, and then experiencing a few self-care practices throughout the session. So we do know the pandemic, racial injustice and social injustice have really been sort of escalating and really creating all sorts of different kinds of stressors for us. And so according to the CDC, these are the things that have happened since the pandemic, but then you add on the layer of what's happening, you know, in just the unknowns, right, between some of the protests that are for, you know, racial justice, for equitable outcomes for kids, just equitable opportunities for all of us, and especially for our students of color, and really trying to figure out the best ways in which to sort of change systems. But all these stresses are impacting your bodies, right? So health-related fears, sleep problems, eating problems, concentration, worsening of chronic health problems if you had any underlying things, increased use of alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. And over 50% of the 20,000 respondents really started talking about isolation, that many folks live alone and they're in places where they don't feel like they have any opportunities. And so what we did, as I shared, we were a student-facing organization, and we actually shifted when I met Dr. Greenberg of CASEL. He's one of the co-founders. And one of the things that he was working on at the time were actually a series of research briefs about stress in schools. This is prior to the pandemic. So this was a series of briefs that he wrote for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And these are all the costs of stress in our school systems across the country. This is prior to anything that's happened in the last 3 to 4 months. And when you think about the cost and toll of stress, not just on the economy, but really on you, the educators, and what it's doing to our mental well-being, our physical well-being, the costs are extraordinary. And when you feel that much stress and anxiety, there's an automatic reciprocity of how that stress sort of plays out in your classroom settings or in your school settings as well. We do know that the stress is impacting every role. This is prior to pandemic. And I can only imagine it's compounded because of the situations that we're all in. But the level of stress in principals, superintendents, the teaching force, it is all a part of what's happening and impacting us. Particularly if you just take a look at the second bullet, all the stress that we're experiencing in our bodies actually has a high toll on the health and well-being, and actually our immune systems are being compromised, especially because of the pandemic. One of the things that I want to just remind you of as teachers is that how you take care of your body is going to actually be, you know, the return on investment for you for self-care is going to be pretty high, which is a good thing. The other thing we do know is, according to the research, we know that stress is contagious, that they've actually had evidence that when teachers are in high burnout and if they're reporting levels of stress and burnout, they actually, their stress, their cortisol impacts the students in their classroom. And they found that higher cortisol levels exist in their students of teachers who reported high levels of stress and burnout. So that reciprocity is definitely there. Dr. Kimberly Schernert-Reichel, who's also on the board of CASEL with me, she just really urges educators across to be aware of your own mindsets and really just practice mental wellness exercises just to reduce your own stress levels. And we know that just from personal experience, take us out of the school setting and just in our daily lives. When we're around people who are highly stressed all the time, we can tend to feel their energy and get agitated. If they're always here, you physically feel very different. And that's something that's actually in the research. So it's not, it's something that is very real. So you're not imagining that. In order to have an impact on others, as my reminder you have to first have an impact on yourself. And because you're here, learning to save the environment, learning how to just, bring all these opportunities for your students. But the one thing that I want to remind you of as a third party, complete stranger, is that the work that you do is so important for a lot of people. And just know that there are people out in your own communities, in the country, and from us that care about what you do. And this is the least selfish thing that you can do. When you take care of yourself, the amount that you can give actually grows. And so we want to just make sure you remember that cycle. So what we focus on is that we focus on 3 simple things. We want to try to keep things as simple as possible. So we want you to remember to breathe, to move, and to rest. I know it sounds very strange that we're focusing on breath work, but the breathing actually helps you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest system faster than any of the other breathing techniques. So when you're, obviously if you're a cardio worker, you have to use your mouth. That would not end well if you're just breathing through your nose. But the nasal breathing and the nasal inhalation and exhalation actually helps you to learn and really practice lung capacity. So you're actually getting more oxygen and more efficient oxygen. So what we hope to do is that by giving you some of these simple strategies, right? Breathe, move, and rest. We're hoping that you'll be much more responsive versus being reactive, knowing that if you're highly stressed, it's contagious to everyone that's around you, not just for the students in your classroom, but perhaps, I know as a mother, if I'm overreacting, I know that I'm always, noticing like, oh, I shouldn't have said it that way. I'm trying to be much more responsive in that way as well. So I wanted to just share with you some of the benefits of nasal breathing. We have a nose. It was built to take in our air. It's right. The nasal passages, it actually does several jobs. And when you think of, if you have any opportunity to see this gentleman, his name is Wim Hof, and he's developed this breathing where he just actually takes all of the breath and uses his breath work to heat up his body, and he sits in buckets of ice and he goes out and there's a whole movement. But it actually, the human body has these incredible components that in which you can do that piece. And so really what you're trying to do is train. And oftentimes we breathe heavily on one side of our nostril versus another. So that's also a way that we can do some of those things. It's called alternate nostril breathing, and we have that in our resources. But I just wanted to share a little bit with you about the benefits of nasal breathing. So the first one we're going to do is called even in, even out. I'm going to have you sit nice and tall in your chair, and always with a nice long elongated spine, shoulders back, open heart. And what this does, again, if you're crouched over like this, or if you're on your computer, you're actually shutting down a little bit of your capacity. And so when you put your shoulders back, it opens up your lung capacity. You'll take in more oxygen. We're going to actually just practice on nasal breathing, breathing in through our nose and exhaling through our nose. And I'm going to count up. So it's exactly the way it sounds, even in, even out. I'm going to count up 1, inhale through your nose. Exhale through your nose, 1. Inhale, 1, 2 through your nose. Exhale, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2. Exhale, 2, 1. Inhale, 1. And last, exhale, 1. There you go. Great. And Mary, his name is Wim Hof. You can just think of Wim Hof. All right. So here's what I want you to do. We know that there is stress, and we want a definition of stress. So it's just a physiological reaction that prepares an individual to respond to a stressor. And a stressor is anything that actually threatens the well-being or homeostasis of the individual, right? Gets us out of that. So what I'd like you to do right now is I want you to go into the chat box, and I want you to write there, tell us where you feel stress in your body. Where do you feel stress in your body right now? Yep, neck and shoulders, the tummy, the neck, the back. Yep, your chest, your eyes, shoulders, hips. Yeah. Lots of chest and lower back. Yeah, stomach. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, your jaw. Yep, grinding your teeth at night. Things tend to, especially for your teeth, you'll notice if you have a lot of stress in the morning, if your jaw's hurt, you're probably grinding at night and you're very tense. Yep. So as you think about where you feel stress in your body, that's so easy to identify. I want you to actually think about where you feel joy in your body. Now tell me where you feel joy. Where do you notice, where do you feel the joy in your body when you actually experience the emotion of joy? Yeah, my heart, my smile, my eyes, my stomach, your chest, your face. Feel calm inside. Yeah, your lungs and your heart, your cheeks. Yeah. I think sometimes when you watch a really great movie and you're laughing so hard, your cheeks hurt. Yeah. And your body feels relaxed. Yes, all those places. And noticing where you feel stress and where you feel joy, your body is communicating to you. And so one of the things that we want to constantly remember is that there are good stressors and bad stressors. And the benefits of stress and where you feel that in your body, it's a positive challenge. It motivates us to take action. It promotes well-being. It enhances our performance. And then as soon as you get to the top of the U curve, right where that peak is, you can actually start to feel the detriments. When you feel like there's no relief in sight, it makes us physically sick. It weakens our immune system or it impairs our performance. It's a little bit of what you shared at the beginning of how you're feeling right now about thinking about going back to school. Is it going to be in person? Is it online? How are they going to be doing these Everglade experiments and water quality experiments if you're not with them physically? All those kinds of things add to your load. And the way we define that as an organization, we actually talk about it as your stress accumulates. You're wearing an imaginary backpack, and every time you have a stressor, we actually imagine that it's a brick being loaded into that backpack, and it's really hard to carry. We call that allostatic load, and the definition of that is it's the wear and tear on your body. It just accumulates as an individual as you're exposed to all of these repeated exposures of chronic stress, and all those bricks. If we keep loading our backpacks over and over again, as teachers often do, you carry the loads of the kids, the school, your classrooms, your environments, and then you have the stressors from home as well. Especially with the pandemic right now, it's elevating people's senses of fear and anxiety, and that might be a load if you've been personally impacted by COVID, maybe with a family member, or just environmentally impacted by COVID and the things that are changing in our environments. So all of that accumulation of stress, we call that allostatic load. And because you can feel it in your body is communicating with you. In order to alleviate, the first step of alleviating all of that allostatic load is to try and unpack the bricks from your backpack by using your body to do so. And that's why we've always focused back on the breathe, the move, and the rest strategies. So this is one of the favorites that we, a lot of our school kids love. And actually, frankly, we've been doing these presentations quite a bit, and several of our superintendents love this because they can do it under the desk when they're at a board meeting. And so one of the things that this is going to be super important to remember is when you do this activity, I'm sorry, it looks like I'm in witness protection because the storm has come, so I apologize for the darkness in here, but I'm in Massachusetts and the light, it keeps shifting. But you're going to hold up your hand like this, and it's take 5. It doesn't matter if your palm is out or your palm is in, but we're going to actually use your other hand. And we're going to use 3 things. We're going to use nasal breathing, so in through your nose, out through your nose. You're going to use tactile touch, and we're going to use our visual sight. You're going to watch, not me, but your index finger of your opposite hand You're going to go up, and that's going to be the inhale. And when you get to the top, you're going to go down. That's your exhale. So you're going to inhale up, exhale down. So I know that you are all ready to do this. So we're going to go from the bottom. We're going to inhale up. You're going to watch your finger up, inhale and exhale. Inhale up, exhale down. In through your nose, exhale through your nose. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your nose. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your nose. Back up, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Especially if you're working with younger kids, I find that if you always crossing midline and trying to do the opposite as well, that's something that will really work. So if you end up having one side, just saying, we're going to switch it up and go to the other hand. And so that actually helps them get a little bit of the balance on both sides of their body. As I shared before, we actually breathe more heavily on one nostril than the other. And so it's also the same, just trying to get that for the hands and opposite sides. Once you cross midline, at least for the younger children, for this one, for the older kids, we actually use this in middle school and high school presentations as well. And we just call that take 5, just for the older crowd. I think. One of the impacts of stress that we wanted you to be aware of, we talk about these in these certain ways, but we also know that many individuals carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. And I do believe that right now the teachers are in the front line. Every, food service worker, the custodial staff, are considered frontline workers in those ways as well. But remember, the impact of stress and trauma are very, very real. When Dr. King was actually, his autopsy after he was assassinated, he was a 39-year-old man. The heart, during his autopsy, they found was the age of a 6-year-old because of all the cortisol and all of the wear and tear on his heart from the stress that was impacting his body. And we bring that to your attention just because I think it's such a visceral sort of feeling that I get when I see this, just knowing how much of the load that folks are carrying and that you might not be able to see on the outside, but how critical it is that you take care of yourself. Oops, oh, sorry. We're gonna do another one. I know many of us have been doing Zooms and we've been doing all kinds of sitting. So we're gonna do a little bit of movement. We talked about breath, we talked about move. Now we're gonna do this movement part and I'm gonna give you a little rest at the end. This is called a chair sunrise twist because we've been sitting so much. And again, we're going to go ahead and you can see on the left, the reason why these frog diagrams are there is we have actually our curricula is broken up into primary and high school. And so we've got age appropriate pre-K through 5, and then we've got the 6 through 12. We have images of students that have actually used our program. So you're going to actually stand up or sit right on the edge of your chair, nice and tall. And you're going to actually, again, nice elongated spine, shoulders back, open heart. And you're going to lift your hands up on the inhale. And you're just going to take a nice inhale and you're going to twist over to the back like this. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. And you're going to hold that for 3 breaths. You're going to inhale through your nose and exhale through your nose. Inhale through your nose, exhale. And you should feel a nice stretch in your shoulder. Inhale and exhale. And you're going to lift your arms up as an inhale, look up at the sky, and down to your shoulders, and exhale. We're going to do that again, but to the opposite side. You're going to go up on the inhale. You're going to exhale, twist. You're going to hold the back of your chair. Nice and long spine. You're going to actually inhale and exhale. Don't hold your breath. You're going to inhale and exhale for 3 counts. Inhale, exhale. 2 more. Last one. Arms up to the center and down to the middle. Shake out your arms a little bit, adjust your clothing back. And that's just called a chair sunrise twist. We have 36 of these on video, and we've got a Brain Bricks manual as well that you can actually use. And so we'll go from there as well. The reason why we focus on educator self-care and the reason we're doing this, we're trying to give you just a little bit of background. So what we normally do in an hour session or a 2-hour session, we're trying to jam pack into this 25 minutes. But it does actually release a lot of your neurochemicals and neurotransmitters. It improves your mood, your endorphins, improve memory. So what they found is with all of the allostatic load, all of the stress and the cortisol, when you actually use your body, your breath, and your physical to combat that, you will actually start to change and start to increase different kinds of hormones to combat the cortisol and the stress hormones in your body. And so when you're actually starting to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, because you're always like this when we're, getting ready to do something, that parasympathetic nervous system goes back into rest and digest. And so when you're actually using your nasal breathing, it'll actually help you go from here to here. So when our grandparents or our parents would tell us, take some deep breaths, they were really right. And there's a lot of research that actually shows that stuff actually works. So let's see. And again, two of the things about the neuroscience, we know what sort of happens when we breathe, but structurally what happens in the neuroscience of the brain is that we actually end up having a couple of things that you notice, especially for work with young children. Their behavior is communication, right? So they're always, their amygdala, all their hormones are actually kind of making decisions for them. It's this prefrontal cortex, and Dr. Dan Siegel has this handy model of the brain. That's what I'm showing you. This, he says, is the amygdala in there. It should be looking like this as for sciences, right? You know that. But as we start to develop, the prefrontal cortex, all our executive functioning, all of our decision making is really in the prefrontal cortex, and that actually doesn't fully develop. It can range from 21 to 27. The average age is about 25. So imagine what we're actually going through if we're feeling the stress and anxiety. If you are not fully developed, we call it, sometimes a teen brain, and the reaction that they have, you can just see the progression in classrooms of children and what that looks like for the neuroscience. And when we start to work on some of these strategies for our self-awareness and our self-management skills as adults, remember, we're always helping the people that are around us as well. We think with our prefrontal cortex, the rational part of our brain, right? It allows us to have good judgment and awareness and long-term consequences. But just like kids, it takes practice. We know from examples, there's lots of adults that don't have a control with the rational part of their brain, and so they're reacting all the time. And so our real goal is to try and practice so that we're being much more responsive. And children, teens, and young adults, they rely on the amygdala to process information, right? This is really the emotional part of our brain. And actually, we're hardwired for this emotion because that's how we've been saved for fight or flight when we sense danger. So we bring these up as one other little portion. We have a unit called a peek inside the amazing brain that sort of lays this out for kids as well and for teachers. The other piece I think is fascinating is that we have the 10th largest, 10th cranial nerve. It's the longest nerve. It's called the vagus nerve. It goes from the back of the cranium all the way, and it touches every single organ in our body. And there's studies that have shown that when you actually focus on the nasal breathing and the movement, it actually starts to tone your vagus nerve so that it actually functions much more efficiently than if you don't. And one of the things about the vagus nerve, because it touches every part of your body, the more we focus on trying to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, when we try to actually make sure that we are taking care of our body in that way, you're allowing that superhighway to be much more efficient. Think about a freeway without traffic is really how that starts to feel. So every time you breathe, you're actually toning your vagus nerve. Whoops. And what we do know, and you know this as just sort of, I think, intuitively, but the research is really clear, that as teachers and educators, we think about cognition and all these, like the academic pieces, but the three most important aspects of learning are attention, focus, and memory. And they're actually all controlled by our emotions and not by our cognition. So Dr. Mark Brackett from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence really focuses a lot on emotion regulation and what that means, and really focusing on the adults that are working with children, because your emotion regulation, your emotions matter a whole lot on how you are perceived in the classroom, and just makes for better relationships with students. And so now I've gone through all this so quickly, I'm gonna have you sit comfortably in your chair this time. You can lay on the floor if you're at home, you can go against a wall, whatever you want to do, but I'm going to actually take you through a little bit of a guided rest and body scan. It's a great opportunity to do this if you are with your students and they just need to figure out how to decompress, but it's called guided rest. You can close your eyes. You can be on the ground. You can sit in your chair. You can put your head on the table, anything that you wish. It'll just be for a couple minutes. So I'm going to have you close your eyes. And I want you to focus and notice your forehead. I want you to relax your forehead. Unclench your teeth and let your jaw just hang. Relax your eyes and your ears. Notice your shoulders and drop them and relax them. Relax your elbows, your forearms and your wrists. Just notice your fingers and let them relax. Notice your chest. Relax your hips. And notice how it feels in the chair or the couch or the floor. And just let it drop and feel very heavy. Relax your thighs, your knees. Relax your calves. Relax your ankles. And just let your feet hang. Just notice your breath. See if you can hear your breath and listen. Listen for the inhale through your nose and the exhale through your nose. Just to allow yourself to be in the quiet. See if you can notice your heart beating. Just notice when you take in your breath, you're taking in all the good. And notice when you exhale that someone is grateful for you. And one more inhale. And exhale through your nose. I want you to wiggle your toes a little and wiggle your fingers very gently. And if you give a nice stretch of your arms overhead, wherever you are. And this time I'm going to have you inhale through your nose and I'm going to have you do a nice exhale through your mouth. And see if you can actually use a cleansing breath. We call that ocean breath. You're going to inhale through your nose and one loud cleansing breath through your mouth. And last one, inhale deeply through your nose and one exhale through your mouth. And as you get settled back and come back into the space, I'd love for you to go ahead and go back to the chat box. And let me know now, think of one word about what's on your mind or how you're feeling right now. Calm, relaxed, better. Great. Good. Peaceful. Great. Gratitude, relaxed, calm. And I just wanted to share with you in our short time together, the self-care practices. I'm going to stand in front of the window so I don't look like I am again in witness protection here. Your lunch digestion feels better. Yeah, it should actually. Your mind is quiet. It's great. Super calm. Excellent. What we did took exactly 4 minutes. So I want you to know that between our, chair twist, the guided rest, your even and even out, and your mindful breath and the mindful minute, that took 4 minutes. So I just want to make sure that you realize how little time it takes to just focus on yourself, even for a couple of minutes. And if you can figure out a couple, one time a day, just commit. You could do it in the morning, you could do it midday, maybe right before. Some people like to do it right before they go home from work, but since you're actually working from home, it might be a good time to do it right before you re-engage with your family if you're at home with your family. So I just wanted to make sure that you have this here. This is our website. All of our resources are free. They're in English and in Spanish, pre-K all the way through 12th. And the other thing I wanted to let you know, we have two sides of the website. So you can sign up for a free curriculum account. We just ask that each teacher has their own. You just have to use your work email address, and you'll get access to 1,200 pages of curriculum that you'll never use. But we have video libraries there that you probably will use. And those are all the breathing exercises. We have alternate nasal breathing as well there, and some other things. On the front side, our public-facing website, we actually have, we set up a virtual PE classes. They're virtual mindful movement. And so they're about 15-minute sequences that you can do in the privacy of your own home. You can actually play those for your students if you are not going to have PE classes in person, things like that. But they're all available for you. They're intended to be used by educators as much as you can. And so please feel free. If you have any questions, we're happy to help. So that's, I think, the end of it. And we also, we know the Headspace, we've been partnering with them for a while. They were donating their app to everyone just so you could have their meditations in line. But they're now donating to every educator in the country, UK, Canada, and I think they're actually just releasing their German one. But that's all there as well. It's just a free service. Their app is great. My daughter uses it sometimes for sleeping. So that's all there too. But thanks so much for allowing me, just the generosity of entering your space at the Everglades Foundation. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this. There was a question in there I wanted to make sure you knew. The nasal breathing for the in through your nose, out through your nose, it's just to actually train yourself to use that organ in your body, and to also help deeper inhalations. You'll notice that when you take a deep breath in through your nose, it's actually you can take up more oxygen than when you try to do it through your mouth. For little kids, exhaling through their mouth is just fine. It's hard for them to do that.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It was amazing, and sharing your wonderful strategies and self-care with us. I think, I saw that chat box open about how we felt at the beginning, and it made me emotional because I think it confirmed what I knew already.
Yeah.
That we were just full of stress and emotions. And so I feel so much better that our chat box has shifted the direction. And that we're all feeling a little bit better in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited that you were able to join us and share this with us, and that it's free and available to our teachers. So we really look forward to how to implement this in our virtual and face-to-face classrooms. So if you could kind of tell us, how would you recommend starting the first few minutes of our virtual class? Is there one you think we should go to first and use?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would start, because of many of you are going to start with classes or kids that you have never met before, and it's going to be in a virtual space. Just asking them what's on your mind or what are you thinking, right? Start with them. I think what we end up doing a lot of times is it feels good to us, but that doesn't mean it's going to feel comfortable for the kids yet. And once you get into that space, I think one thing that they have done, like even in even out, is a really easy one to do. Starfish breath is really easy. We focus on things that kids can actually learn and end up teaching to the class. So eventually, and because we have those videos, you can assign a video to one of the students, and maybe they're going to be the mindful leader for the week. Anything like that works. And we also have opportunities, I think, where in the pre-K curriculum, there's a lot of visuals, and they can practice, a movement sequence or even just a pose. So those are all there as well. We have reflection journals, posters, everything is just downloadable. And because they're all created in PDF, if you're using Zoom or any other environment, you can just download it from the site and you can just use those images. If in fact you go venture down the path of all the curriculum that we have, you're going to notice that there isn't a whole lot of text on one page. We have guiding questions that you aren't going to use all of them, but we want to give you lots of choice. There's book choices there as well. And in our pre-K through 5, we actually call them developing the superpowers. And so it's a 5-unit sequence that you can use and do things like that. But
lot to dig into on that website, but also amazing. And so spend some time getting to know the site and opening up those curriculum sources. And is self-care for teachers. Do not forget about yourself. That's really important. It's why we wanted to share this with you today as well. you in turn can share that with your students. So 2 more questions. One question was, can cortisol levels be reversed? And so I do know from what you taught us today that what we can do is we can decrease those levels through
Yeah.
behaviors and actions, right?
Yeah, and think about this. My husband had a heart attack over the summer last year, but think about what happens when you actually end up having the bypass surgery or anything else like that. They make you change your diet, get more rest, do more exercise. So all of the 7 critical healing factors, good nutrition, rest, and mindfulness is actually one of them. That is very much the reason why they recommend those things. And our whole goal, and to be honest with you, for all of you teachers that are on this particular session, I actually hope you don't go to our curriculum section and try and get things for your classroom. I hope you actually just use them for you. If you can just use the virtual PE classes for yourself, if you can just use some of the brain breaks and kind of practice for yourself, those are the things that I think are going to be so tremendously helpful for your kids, just naturally knowing that there is this reciprocity of self-care. If you just do that for yourself, the other stuff can wait, honestly. No one is going to be wanting to do and dig into new content ever. So especially after the pandemic, are you kidding? So if you end up doing those kinds of things, just remember how important when you take care of yourself, the amount of energy, the amount of positivity and goodwill that you share out, it just is going to come out naturally. So the more you actually end up taking care of yourself. And the more we actually practice our self-awareness, not going in this crazy, flip our lid mode, and we're sort of at homeostasis, we're modeling all those kinds of things for the folks that are around us. So
Great point.
anyways,
Thank you for
yeah.
continually reminding us about how important that absolutely is. And we'll close with one more question.
Yeah.
It was, can you measure, and I'm sorry, I'm having some issues getting to my chat box, but can you measure the frontal lobe cortex?
Right now, I can't personally, but there's a lot of brain research. And so the reason why they're able to share that with the full development of the prefrontal cortex is that all of the brain scans, the fMRIs, so our program was studied at Stanford University, and they actually have brain scans of the kids that pre and post of them using our curriculum. The brain scans actually show sort of hot spots in the brain. And so the technology is so fierce right now to be able to kind of scan those areas. That's actually how they got their range from 21 to 27 of that full development of the prefrontal cortex. The other piece that I wanted to share with you that I think is really cool is that when we were growing up, I'm 52, they said if we didn't learn a foreign language by a certain age, we're never going to learn it. It turns out, though, through all this brain research right now, that there are certain times where your brain, no matter how old you are, is always constantly changing and growing and developing, but you have to exercise that muscle. And they said that you can actually learn a new language or a second language as an adult if you fall in love, because that motivation and that sort of piece of the hormones that sort of get you motivated to do other things. I thought that was a pretty cool thing. I learned that from a neuroscientist in Washington.
I think that's brilliant. And I think it lends itself nicely to what we're trying to do in the environment, right? And
Yeah.
so trying to get them to love and have empathy and care for something that's not necessarily
Yes.
as attainable as you would think it would be, right? And so I
Yeah.
think it's important to understand that wherever you start, that you can always learn to love and learn and continue to learn. So that's
Yeah. And the
awesome.
best thing about your environmental programs that you all are doing and committing to is that it automatically lowers your cortisol level when you're actually out in nature. And so you get a twofer.
Yeah, super, right, exactly. So because we know that spending time in nature, the research tells us that outdoors helps us to relax. And not
Yes.
all of our students have that equity and access to our outdoors
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to get out in different ways. And so I'm bringing them back to this self-care and helping them to think about ways, or
Yeah.
just bring it back to ourselves, think about ways in which we can connect and use these strategies and be serious about it.
Yeah.
Purposeful, I think, is really important to us. Thank you again.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
one last question, and we're going to wrap this up. Would you recommend any books on brain?
Um, you know, I'm not going to do that for you, because if you're here motivated to learn about the environment, now you're here, I'm not going to let you read a book about the brain. I'm going to force you to take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
Once you do that, until take this rest of this time until school starts, I can't underscore the importance of you just taking the time to do that. There's plenty of time that you can learn about the brain more deeply, but I think my whole goal and hope for you is that you'll actually take some time just to focus on your breath, go out into nature, and you're already actually activating, and you'll start being in a place where you're going to want to learn a little bit more deeply. But I'm going to save you from yourself. How about that, Jenny?
That's a great point. I will take a note today that I will promise to focus on that.
Yes.
And I know that all of our participants and our staff have been texting, oh my gosh, yes, we needed this. Thank you.
Good.
It's so important. And as we thought about our symposium this year, we had to think a little differently and to really think about what our teachers
Yeah.
need. This was absolutely at the top of the list. And you just provided such a wonderful presentation and service for us. So thank you so much for your time. We look forward to chatting soon.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, and take care of yourself. And we know you're taking care of the environment, so you're already doing things for lots of people. So much love and gratitude, and thanks, Jenny, so much, and Kelly and Kim, or Keely, sorry, and Kim.
Thank you. So remember, all the resources will be posted on evergladesliteracy.org under our 2020 symposium. Thank you for joining us today for this first ever virtual Everglades Teachers Symposium. We so appreciate your participation. We look forward to collaborating with you this fall and continue the momentum of Everglades education in the classroom and in the virtual classroom, and to work with you and help you to create the next generation. And I'll give you as many tools and resources that we can to help minimize that stress, to help make your job just a little bit easier. And so we'll be hosting sessions throughout the year. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please share them with us. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.